Welcome to the Fandom Podcast Network special presentation of Time Warp 1981, Movies and Pop Culture 40 Years Later. This is part 3, May and June of 1981. In this special edition of Time Warp, we will cover the year in movies and pop culture for 1981. Over the last few years of the Fandom Podcast Network, we've celebrated the movies of the 80s and the 90s, and this year we decided to time travel back to the 80s again and look back on this fantastic year of movies and pop culture for 1981. The 1981 movies, TV shows, and music are all celebrating their 40th anniversary. Welcome to part 3 of Time Warp 1981, the movies and pop culture, and in this episode we're going to be covering the May and June of 1981. So I'm Kevin, your host. I'd like to introduce my guest for this time travel journey back to 1981. I'd like to welcome back Lacee Aderhold. How are you?
Hello. I am well. Thank you for having me.
Got your movie Kung Fu ready?
Movie Fu? It's possible. We'll see how it goes.
And of course, I'd like to welcome back my brother from another mother and my fellow co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Kyle Wagner.
It's always good to be here, but Kevin, you didn't put the chlorine in the hot tub time machine. It's a mess over here.
There's some other magical liquid that's in there. That
I don't want
to know. We just want to tease, too, that 1981 was a breakout year for the horror film genre. And later, we're going to be doing a special Time Warp horror movies of 1981 with my lovely fiance, Erin Gill, and her friend, Brett Giles. So this is going to be really cool if you're a horror fan, because there was a lot of legendary horror films that came out, and it was just a year of, they decided to just, let's turn up the horror films, and a bunch of them came out. So we're going to celebrate that genre for 1981 coming out a little bit later. But one thing we wanted to let you guys know is what we remember in general. We're taking a new approach to these time warps for 1981 because we're touching on a lot of films that, as some of us were a little younger at the time, and these movies are all 40 years old now, and maybe we didn't get to the theater as much as we wanted to, and maybe we didn't see these until years later, and some of these we've never seen. But we're taking a different approach because we're going to be talking about movies that we haven't seen in addition to the ones we have, because we want to, first of all, learn about them ourselves, and also as you, the listeners. So, Lacee, I know this has been kind of a challenge for doing 81 because there are some stuff that we haven't seen that we're going to be speculating on and maybe go back and watch later and report later.
Yes. I was, 1981? I was, depending on which part of the year we're talking, we're in, May, June? So I was 8 years old. So there wasn't, so anything that's rated R, or I guess at that point we're just getting ready to get into the PG-13 of it all. So there was a lot that I didn't see until much later.
Yeah, I was 10 going on 11, depending on what time of the year it was. And Kyle, I know some of these are new to you as well that you have not seen.
I was 6 in 1981, so yeah.
So you were watching a lot of video later on in HBO and stuff like that.
Exactly.
On some of these. Okay. Well, it is out of our comfort zone to a certain degree, but there was a lot of 81 films that, of course, we know and love and that are very popular. And there's a couple of weird ones out there that we don't know that we do want to talk about. But I always ask you guys, was there something from the last episode? Was there a movie that we talked about that you hadn't seen and that now you have seen and educated yourself? And I took it upon myself to watch a movie that we talked about in the last episode in part 2 of March, April. And the movie I went and saw was Caveman, of course, starring Ringo Starr, a very young Dennis Quaid and Shelley Long, and Barbara Bach. It also, Carl Lumbly, by the way, Kyle, was in this movie.
Have you recovered yet from this experience?
But yeah, I had to see this film because it looked really funny. And I got to tell you, it was very corny. So what's funny is in the beginning of the film, it says a zillion years ago, and then October 8th.
Right.
And apparently that was a shout out to John Lennon's birthday, because that was when he was born. And of course, Lennon was killed the year before. So that was really cool. But what was really funny was the stop motion I guess you can call them pre-dinosaurs. They look like kind of like big lizards, but they were dinosaur size.
Okay. Wait, Kevin, let's be honest. Caveman has nothing. I mean, Jurassic Park has nothing on Caveman.
One of my favorite raiders was in this, John Matuzak. He played the leader of the tribe. I got to tell you, though, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was very funny and corny. And I almost didn't recognize Dennis Quaid in this. Young Shelley Long, of course. Jack Guilford was in it as well. As I mentioned, Carl Laemmle from Alias and Falcon and Winter Soldier was in there as well. Kyle, have you seen this?
I have seen this. It's been a very, very long time since I've seen this, so I could probably use a refresher on it.
What about you, Lacey?
Yeah, I remember only one scene, and it was the dinosaur poop scene. Like that's the only thing. And I remember that only because I wasn't like my mother walked in as the S word was being spoken, and it was turned off immediately.
And so this was rated PG, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, Richard Mall played the Abominable Snowman. So it was because we talked about it. I'm like, I got to see this film. So I had to go back and make sure that I saw this film. It was directed by first-time director Carl Gottlieb, who wrote Dr. Detroit, Jaws 2, and what else has he directed? He did the Honey, I Shrunk the Kid TV show. Amazon Women on the Moon segments. George Burns Comedy Week. And an episode of Laverne and Shirley. Mostly he's writer. His writer credits are longer than his directing credits. But it was fun to go back and so I got to ask you, Lacey, was there anything from the last episode of movies that you decided to go back and watch?
Looking at the list, because I knew this question was coming, I went back and looked at it, and I realized that phase 2 or section 2 was the one that I did the most research on. I saw all the movies in advance, and I actually went and, I bought several of them and did a lot of research beforehand. So there wasn't anything that I wanted to see that I hadn't seen other than Thief, and it still has not come in the mail. I ordered it, and I know there's a lot of shipping issues right now. There's apparently something crazy going on with the mail or the Amazon people.
When it does come, watch it and report on the next episode we do, because there was a movie that we're about to discuss in this show that I was hoping would come sooner. I bought it as well. It hasn't come. Now, Kyle, what about you? I actually mailed you one of these movies for your birthday.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it, but did you see any of these films or pick a film that you saw had not seen before that we talked about previously?
I have not had a chance as of yet. I've been a little busy with the editing side of things too, but you did send me Night Riders for my birthday, so I am going to check that out. And I'm like Lacey, I want to see Thief, and I've just got to track it down to where I can watch it. But I do plan on checking out those two films. I think I need enough booze before I watch Night Riders.
All right, I expect a report next time we get together to watch that stuff.
Honestly, if you end up in Colorado before you watch Night Riders, you might, go for something else.
Some edibles might be in.
There you go. It might take a minute. This might be a Cheech and Chong level experience requirement.
Well, there's a lot of movies in this podcast today that we're going to be recording that most of us have seen, but there might be a few that we haven't. And
I ordered several of these that have not come yet, so I'll be reporting in those next time as well.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me for this special episode of Time Warp 1981, Movies and Pop Culture 40 Years Later, Part 3, May and June of 1981. But first, let's take a step back in time to 1981. Let's fuel up that DeLorean and flux capacitor, slingshot around the sun aboard a captured Klingon bird of prey, or take a step into that blue police box or phone booth, or my favorite, take a dip in that hot tub time machine as we travel back to 1981. We're going to remind you of what was happening in pop culture, sports, politics, television, and of course, the movies of 1981. All right, if you were born in 1981, well, a loaf of bread was 54 cents. Some popular songs, which I'm going to go over in a minute here. Technology, the operation system MS-DOS was created by Tim Patterson. Flight of the first the U.S. Space Shuttle Columbia. Dodgers and Raiders won their championships. Boston Celtics also won. And another average cost, let's go with your monthly rent was $315. Not too bad.
I can only wish.
Politics. What was that cost?
I said I can only wish.
I know, right? Politics. Ronald Reagan just stepped in to become president after defeating Jimmy Carter. And some news here. May 15th, Donna Payant is murdered by serial killer Lemuel Smith, the first time a female correctional officer has been killed on duty in the United States. June, United States enters the severe early 80s recession. Exactly a year after the more minor 1980 recession ended, the unemployment rate is at 7.2%. June 12th, Major League Baseball goes on strike, forcing the cancellation of 38% of the schedule. And June 21st, Wayne Williams, a 23-year-old African-American, is arrested and charged with the murders of 2 other African-Americans. He is later accused of 28 others in the Atlanta child murders. I remember relearning about this of looking, Mindhunter TV series was talking about this. Great series, only lasted 2 seasons, unfortunately. But it was based on the true story of how the FBI was starting to profile and figure out serial killers and their patterns and trying to catch them before they do more stuff. So that was really, really cool. June 29th, Morris Edwin Robert, armed with a machine gun, holds hostages in the FBI section of the Atlanta, Georgia Federal Building. After 3 hours, the hostages are rescued, and Robert is killed in a shootout with federal agents. I don't remember this. Do you guys remember this?
No, I don't recall that one.
Yeah, I remember it was a really, really, I remember there being like a really crazy week or week and a half, because I remember with the Atlanta child murders, I remember being like, as a kid, I remember, because we walked to school back then, and so we were always, oddly, no one drove us to school, but they put us in packs. So it was like, me and the 3 neighbors, like the group of us, we'd all have to walk together, and they put in a second crossing guard so that they could watch us walk from where, and I remember that being a very big deal, because there were kids that were just getting kind of pulled from,
Yeah.
It was terrifying. And then I remember there being something about the federal building, but Atlanta had a rough couple of weeks there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, and June 5th, the Center for Disease and Control Prevention reported in 5 men in Los Angeles have a rare form of pneumonia seen only in patients with weakened immune systems. The first recognized cases for AIDS.
And that's when they still called it GRID. It was called GRID originally, which stood for a gay-related immune disorder.
Yeah. But then, of course, spread outside the gay community as well.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We have some toys to talk about in 81. We have the Highway Patrol playset by Playmobil for $19.99. Remember Playmobil? That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was a little bit older for that, but I still stuck some G.I. Joes in those, Kyle.
I actually had... I have this set, but there was a police set my dad had gotten me as a kid of Playmobiles. The rough thing about Playmobiles was you want to talk about no articulation.
But their vehicles were pretty cool to commandeer with your G.I. Joes.
I'm going to tell you what. I still have a Playmobil. I have a Playmobil Zamboni that I love.
My sister had Playmobil stuff, and I remember that I had all my old Weebles. You remember Weebles?
Weebles wobbles, but they don't fall down. Oh, there you go, Kyle. Nice.
I remember that sometimes the little play school dudes wouldn't fit properly in some of the little outfit and some of the little cars and stuff. So we'd put the Weebles in there with silly putty to make them stay.
That's cool. That's awesome. We also had the Jaws game by Ideal, price $7.99. Fish out objects, but don't let Jaws snap shut. And then we also had, oh man, I wish I had this one. The Crazy Clone Laboratory by Kenner, $7.79. Now your child can clone his own fingers with this molding toy. Mix green material with water, place finger in mold for a few minutes, then mix second batch using flesh tone mix and pour into original green mold. In a few minutes, remove clone figure with a soft, weird skin feel. Also makes copies of toes and other objects. Includes mixes, cloning pot, mixing cauldron, measuring wand, and finger urn.
I can see this toy did not probably last long, because one too many kids did something where, I my God, I've lost my hand.
Where is this thing now, Lacey?
I can also see this being like the precursor to several people who are like heavy into special effects right now.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Especially horror movies.
Are we calling this the Face Off starter kit?
I know, right?
Nice. Very
All
good.
right. This one is from Kyle's personal collection, The Little Volkswagen by Tommy, 1488. Delight your little folk with this lovable bug. It has a real horn and seat that lifts for storing all kinds of stuff. Front wheels turn.
This is how I still drive to work. What are you talking about?
I remember this. My sister had one, and it was just, I mean, talk about an ankle biter. Like that thing, you get hit one so many times. Yeah, it's that front
all right.
hard.
Let's head into music news for May and June. U2 appears on The Tomorrow Show on June 4th with Tom Snyder, their first U.S. television appearance. June 5th, the TV series Night Flight. I remember that.
Oh,
A
yes.
variety show featuring music, documentary, and videos that premiered on the USA Network.
How long did that last? Because that ran for a while.
10 years, maybe?
Yeah.
15 at the most?
Yeah.
I think so. June 6th, Kerrang! Magazine publishes its first issue. Angus Young of AC/DC is on the cover. And June 30th, Jerry Lee Lewis is rushed to the hospital in Memphis for emergency surgery for a tear in his stomach. Despite given less than a 50% chance of survival, he eventually pulls through. So I was, Lacey.
It's so funny. I read that earlier, and in my head it was Jerry Lewis. And I was like, yeah, he lived till he was like 100.
Now, this is the Great Balls of Fire guy.
Right. And just in
the one that married his young cousin.
Yeah. So that completely changes my perspective of this bullet point. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So we're gonna get into music here, and I was at a thrift store a few weeks ago, and I found the Billboard Top Hits for 1981, and I had to buy it because it was like 50 cents. And on this Top Hits for 1981 is pretty cool. 1, Physical by Olivia Newton-John. 2, Betty Davis Eyes, Kim Carnes. 3, Kiss on My List, Daryl Hall and John Oates. 4, Jesse's Girl, Rick Springfield. 5, 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. 6, Celebration by Kool and the Gang. 7, The Tide is High by Blondie. 8, The One That You Love by Air Supply. 9, Being With You, Smokey Robinson. And 10, Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton. I want to know where Kim Carnes and Juice Newton is, and I also want to know how can you get an awesome name like Juice Newton?
you just can't anymore. The Juice officially took the Juice off the board.
I know. Where is she now? Lacey, what do you think? I mean, where are they?
I don't know, but I will say that I mistook Juice Newton for Olivia Newton-John several times, like because they were so popular at the same time. And I'm not really a music person, so I would hear something and then like them announce like so and so is going to sing whatever the next song coming up, and I'd be like, oh, I think I like them, and then it'd be like, that's not who I was. What? Yeah, I will say, Hall & Oates, to this day, you can still call. There's a phone number called Call & Oates where you can dial it for a Hall & Oates song if you need one.
Really? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. They were musical geniuses.
Yeah. Kevin, and let's be honest. There was many dash of puberty brought on by Olivia Newton-John and Physical.
This is very true.
Rick Springfield, y'all. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Rick Springfield. Yep. Yep. You know what? Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. Dolly Parton's what is that? What are you showing up?
She's showing off Call & Oates.
My Call & Oates. I have it in my phone. I have it stored in my phone. It says Call & Oates. I don't know. Can you see it?
Can you call them and let me know what song they're playing?
I don't know if that would be is that something I can call?
No, you don't have to play it on the.
I was going to say, I don't know
just hold it up to your ear and let us know what song they're playing.
No, it's a thing where you hit like, okay,
you can request a song.
Dial 1 for such and such song, dial 2 for.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
So you get to pick, and there's there's obviously 9 options. And
what's the number?
The number is.
Yeah, please let us know.
719-266-2837.
That's fantastic.
And I'll give you that later so you can put it in the notes if you'd like.
Call notes if you would like to give us any advertising money. You just send it to the Fandom Podcast Network.
9 to 5's kind of come back into play. Didn't we see it on an episode of
The Orville?
Orville, Kyle?
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we'll be discussing that on Union Federation at some point.
Yes.
And 9 to 5 has had a very strange. I literally 3 days ago, I was sitting at lunch talking to somebody, and they said something about the sitar, and I was like, the best thing, the best sitar I've heard of like a random update was when I know I'm the only person who saw the movie The Love Guru, but when Mike Myers played 9 to Five on the sitar or whatever it was called,
that was a one and done movie for me. I saw that in the theater.
It's just the things you don't expect.
That's the movie that killed him right there. That movie there. Okay. What we like to do is pick about 20 at a time for the top 181 100. I'm sorry, the 1981 top 100 music hits. And right now we're going to talk about songs 60 through 41, starting with Giving It Up for Your Love by Delbert McClinton, Stop Dragging My Heart Around by Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty, This Little Girl by Gary U.S. Bonds, Dee Doo Doo Dee Doo Da Da The Police. I totally butchered that.
Dee Doo Doo Dee Da Da. That's all I want to say to you.
There you go, Kyle. There you go. Who's Crying Now by Journey, What Are We Doing in Love by Dottie West and Kenny Rogers, Too Much Time on My Hands by Styx, Together by Tierra, More Than I Can Say by Leo Sayer, Somebody's Knockin' by Terry Gibbs, Sweetheart by Frankie and the Knockouts, Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen, Time by the Alan Parsons Project, the breakup song They Don't Write 'Em by the Greg Kiln Band, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Pat Benatar, How About Us by Champagne, I Don't Need You by Kenny Rogers, You Make My Dreams by Hall & Oates, It's My Turn by Diana Ross, and Hearts by Marty Balin. Half of these I don't even remember. Lacey?
Me not being the music person, I remember Stop Dragging My Heart Around, and I remember Hit Me With Your Best Shot. Everything else, if you played it, I might go, oh yeah. But other than that, I've got nothing. I got nothing.
Kyle, any of these jump out at you?
Oh, come on. We already got da-da-da-da. But we also got
yeah.
Too Much Time on My Hands by Styx.
I do remember that by Styx.
Yeah, now that you sing it, I can recognize it. That's my problem.
Everybody's got a hungry heart because, it's the boss.
Yes, I remember that one.
And not only do you hit me with your best shot, you fire away. And of course, too, the musical genius that is Hall & Oates, you make my dreams come true. Do.
Kyle, they're going to sue us. Stop.
Yeah. No, trust me, they're going to sue us so I never sing again. That's what it is.
All right, let's head on over some TV. We've got we've talked about most of these before in the last few episodes. Got to ask you guys, though, I was looking at these top 30 TV shows. Dallas was number 1. At number 30 during this time, Fantasy Island was at the bottom with TJ Hooker. That's incredible. And a bunch of those. I don't remember Trapper John MD or ever seeing an episode. Did you guys watch this one?
I remember it. Yep. I remember it was actually a spin-off, very odd spin-off out of MASH.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's why, because I didn't like MASH. My parents did, but I did not. Lacey?
No, we watched MASH until MASH was done, and then we watched Trapper. And it was weird because Trapper John came right before the one with Klugman as the autopsy guy.
Jack Klugman.
Yeah.
Quincy,
yeah. It was Trapper John and Quincy back to back. So it was kind of like, here's the person who's trying to save people's lives, and then like, here's what happens when they died.
The top 10 was Dallas, 60 Minutes, Jefferson's, Three's Company, Alice, Dukes of Hazzard, Too Close for Comfort, the ABC Monday Night Movie, MASH, and One Day at a Time. Three's Company, that was my jam right there.
Hey, we were all knocking. You know what? I got to give some love to One Day at a Time because Valerie Burton and Ellie, America's Sweetheart, Mackenzie Phillips, and who didn't love Schneider?
Yeah, Schneider, definitely. Okay, So what was debuting this year during this time in May was SCTV Network on NBC. This was pretty much the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live. Bob and Doug McKenzie, a bunch of other great acts came out of there. John Candy spent some time on there as well. Great Canadian comedy legends did their time basically, and I used to watch that series. I think I watched it on rerun later, not live, but I remember seeing it later on. Absolutely loved it. Shows that were ending this year during these months was on May. Eight is Enough ended their tenure. They started in 1977, and the Muppet Show, which started in 1976, ended as well.
Boo! A question: there is a whole generation that only knows Dick Van Patten as Eight is Enough.
Yeah, I know, right? Of course, I remember him in Spaceballs.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew what Eight is Enough was. I remember watching a few episodes, but it really wasn't my jam.
Hey, Willie Ames, man. Willie Ames got his start at Eight is Enough too. So
that's right. Yeah.
He's a cruise ship he's a cruise director on a ship ship line now. He's a religious
He's Kirk. He went Kirk Cameron.
A little bit, but not like angry.
He created a Christian superhero, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, Bible Man.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, but then he broke his leg or something, and he couldn't do it anymore. Like he was injured, so he couldn't play the character anymore.
What was the series that he did with Scott Baio?
Charles in Charge. Nicole Eger,
Charles
man.
in Charge. Thank you.
Josie Davis and Nicole Eger. Come on now.
That was my jam right there. We had some notable deaths. Bob Marley died May 11th. Some of these other people.
Arthur O'Connell, man, I remember him he did a whole ton of
Arthur O'Connell.
Yeah, Arthur O'Connell. He was in one of my very favorite movies, Operation Petticoat.
George Jessel, actor and entertainer. He also passed away during this time. We have some births to help make us feel a little old. Danielle Fishel.
Topanga! Sorry. Just reflex. Sorry.
Topanga. Adam Green, singer-songwriter. Who else do we have here? Shmush Parker, basketball player.
Chris Evans.
Oh, yeah, he's kind of famous.
Yeah.
He did
Captain America was born June 13th. Oh, wait. Hold on. That's today.
Mm-hmm. No, that was a month ago. June 13th. This is July.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It's July 13th. Yes. Who else we got here? Some of these people I don't really know. Joe Johnson, basketball player. So, but we have some celebrity film debuts. A few of these here. Ciaran Hinds, who was in Excalibur. Peter McNichol, who I know you're a big fan of, Lacey.
I am.
In Dragon Slayer.
Peter McNichol, yeah.
Alfred Molina in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Chris Noth in Waitress. Demi Moore in Choices. Sean Penn in Taps. And Martha Plimpton in Rollover.
Can I just add? It seems like Martha Plimpton has been around for forever. She's just there.
I know, right? I think she's my age.
Yeah, and talk about a strong debut. Sean Penn in Taps. That was a rough role, man. Like that was.
Actually, I just saw Martha Plimpton while I was watching the TV series Younger. She had a reoccurring role in that.
Nice. I love Raising Hope. She's so funny, and it's so funny.
I think you'd like Younger. You should watch that, Lacey. I think you'd enjoy that.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Top 10 grossing movies of all time, not of all time. For 1981, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark at number 1, Golden Pawn at 2, Superman 2 at 3, Arthur at 4, Stripes at 5, The Cannonball Run at 6, Chariots of Fire at 7, For Your Eyes Only at 8, The Four Seasons at 9, and Time Bandits at 10. And a couple of little movie event notes. Metro Golden Mayer. Oh, yes, Lacey.
Just to note, 6 of those 10 we're talking about tonight. So that means that 6 of the 10 that best of the year were released in May and June. That's
the prime time for releasing movies right at the beginning of the summer. So, yeah. Yep, definitely.
Cool.
May 16th, Metro Goldwyn Mayer acquires beleaguered Concurrent United Artists. UA was humiliated by the astronomical losses of the $40 million movie Heaven's Gate, a major factor in the decision of owner Transamerica to sell it. June 8th, Martin Davis acquires 20th Century Fox for $720 million. And then eventually got sold to Disney, right?
For a lot more.
And as we mentioned, Raiders of the Lost Ark is released by Paramount Pictures, and it's the highest scoring grossest film at the time. Yeah, Lacey?
I wonder what the just inflation wise, I wonder what 720 million relates to today.
Still not still not equal of what
a billion and a half, maybe 2 billion.
Trust me, they still made more from Disney.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's get into the main show segment here. Let's start talking about the movies. Time Warp 81, movies in pop culture for 40 years later. God, these are all 40 years old. This is part 3, May and June of 1981. And we start with Hard Country. And these are all descriptions from IMDb, so please understand that. Ambitious young Jody wants more out of life than a small Texas country town she lives in that has to offer. Jody realizes in order to pursue her dreams, she will have to leave Texas and move to the big city. However, her shiftless factory worker boyfriend Kyle wants to stay in Texas. Starring Jan Michael Vincent and a young Kim Basinger, and Michael Parks. All right, Lacey, have you seen this? Because I have not.
You know what? I feel like I saw it a long time ago, maybe on like USA or even maybe HBO or something. But Tanya Tucker was in this, as well as Richard Mall. It was. I remember vaguely. I couldn't tell you what it's about. Like, I mean, obviously you just read the synopsis, but I don't have any recollection of it other than I recognized the scenes that I saw in the trailer.
A young Daryl Hannah also is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And the character that Richard Mall plays is called Top Gun.
Top Gun, yeah.
Kyle, I'm assuming you have not seen this.
Is Jan Michael Vincent flying a helicopter in this?
No.
Then no. No, actually, I haven't seen this movie, but I've heard some things about this movie, and I know this is when they were really trying to make Jan Michael Vincent kind of a star, and obviously you have Kim Basinger before she completely explodes onto the scene. We're a little bit away from 9.5 weeks yet, so. But yeah, I mean, this movie is kind of one of those ones. It's out there when you kind of recognize the name when you hear of it, but yeah, not exactly something I'm going to be plopping down to watch anytime soon.
All right, the next one I'm actually looking up on IMDb or on Amazon to see if it's available, and I think you ordered this movie.
Yep, it is. I ordered it 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but you haven't seen it yet. This might be on my list to see. This is King of the Mountain. A group of friends race their high-powered cars up and down a dangerous and deadly mountain road known as Mulholland Drive to see who can claim the title of King of the Hill, starring Harry Hamlin, Joseph Bottoms, and one of my favorite crushes throughout the 80s and early 90s, Kyle, Deborah Van Valkenburg. You remember her?
Oh, yes, very much so. But there's a few other people in this, too. We got Dan Haggerty, Richard Cox. There's some interesting names.
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopper.
And hold on. Cassandra Peterson as neighbor. Do we know who Cassandra Peterson is? I do.
The name is familiar. Why am I blanking?
Oh, I'm so disappointed in you movie nerds. Come on.
Oh, Elvira.
Nah, he looked it up on IMDb.
I know, but still. Oh, William Forsythe is in this movie as well.
Forget William Forsythe.
Wait, I do have a question. Are we sure the lead character's last name isn't Toretto?
I know, right? I'm a big fan of Deborah Van Valkenburg. She was in like Streets of Fire, The Warriors. Big fan of hers. Okay, so you have not seen this, Lacey. It's on order. Kyle, have you seen this?
I have not seen this, but my curiosity is definitely piqued when I watched the trailer for it.
I know, me too. I when we get to like choosing what we're going to see afterwards, this is definitely, I think, going to be on the list here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next we have, on May 15th was The Fan. Douglas, a record salesman, is an obsessive fan of actress Sally Ross. When his letters are rejected, he strikes out at her and her loved ones. Stars Lauren Bacall, James Garner, and Michael Biehn. I think he's the one that plays the psycho.
You think?
Also starring Maureen Stapleton, Hector Elizondo. Who else?
Dwight
Dana
Schultz.
Delaney.
Yeah,
Dwight Schultz. Yes, there you go. I have a feeling this is based on some real stuff that's happened. I don't know. Lacey, have you seen this?
I have not. At that point, this would have been like terrorizing to me. I was 8 years old. I don't think I could have seen it at that point. And I've just never been a fan of horror, but I'm interested to see it now because I've met Michael and he's a really nice guy. And, I feel like I could watch it with and have that kind of barrier because I've met him in person and I'm not going to like have trouble sleeping that night. But my biggest thing with this movie, I remember seeing the trailer for it like a million years ago and they killed the electric grandmother in the trailer. Like remember the electric grandmother? Mm-hmm. Maureen Stapleton was in a movie called The Electric Grandmother. And that was like one of the sweetest, most fun, adorable movies ever.
Apparently, this movie was controversial upon the theatrical release due to the recent numbers of stalkings, harassment, shootings, and even assassinations of celebrities. Stars at the time had become victims of fan obsession included Jodie Foster, Jane Seymour, Larry Hagman, Perseus Kambata, Jacqueline Bisset. The Pope and Ronald Reagan had been shot. Sharon Tate, Dorothy Stratton, and John Lennon had all been homicides. So yeah, that's interesting.
Kevin, there is a modern remake of this film.
Really?
It starred Robert De Niro, Wesley Snipes, Benicio del Toro, and they put a baseball twist on this.
That's right. And I know there was another movie called Star 80, which also was based on one of the celebrities being stalked and killed as well, if I remember correctly. So yeah.
Was that I can't remember his name. It's going to drive me nuts. Who directed American Werewolf in Paris?
Landis? No.
He was in it as well. Starts with a D. He was the best friend.
What happened? What's going on?
His sister was shot by a stalker.
Oh yeah, that she starred with Pam Donner. Pam Donner and My Sister Sam.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, that was one of the actresses. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That happened a little bit later, but yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Next we
Rebecca Schaeffer was the actress.
Thank you, Rebecca Schaeffer. Yes. Next we have Take This Job and Shove It.
I ain't working here no more.
The Allison Group has bought 4 beer breweries in difficulties. The young but rising top manager Frank Macklin is sent to reorganize one of them, and the one which happens to be the main company is hometown. At first, his old buddies are reluctant to have him as a new boss, but since he can't save all of them from the severe changes, the climate soon changes. He then learns that he increased the profit so much that his boss has decided to resell his brewery profitability to incompetent Texas oil millionaire. Starring Robert Hayes, Art Carney, and Barbara Hershey. Mm-hmm. I want to say I saw this like on a TV rerun with my parents because I vaguely remember this. Kyle, have you seen this?
I'm like you. I vaguely remember this, but what I remember it for was the amazing cameo by that great early 80s vehicle actor Bigfoot.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Tim Thomerson was in this. David Keith as well. Eddie Albert, Martin Mull. Have you seen this, Lacey?
I have not, and I have I have absolutely no recollection at all of even seeing the trailer for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got nothing.
All right. Next, we have Bustin' Loose. A director of a foster home is forced to move her kids from Philadelphia to Seattle in a broken down bus driven by a fast-talking parolee assigned to the task. A hilarious road trip adventure. Starring Richard Pryor, Cicely Tyson, Angel Ramirez. I think I remember seeing this. I was trying to catch up on Richard Pryor films, watching some of his stand-up as well. Don't remember it that well. Kyle.
I actually remember this. I remember seeing it. It was actually an enjoyable film, but this was also at the time when somebody decided, oh, Richard Pryor needs to be doing family-friendly movies for a while. So we got this and like Brewster's Millions and a few other things that were a little bit more family-friendly Richard Pryor. And if there's 4 words that don't need to go together, it's family-friendly and Richard Pryor.
Lacey, have you seen it?
I do remember seeing this. I think it was later though. I feel like I saw this and the toy on maybe a maybe it was like because I remember I remember seeing this in the theater, but I know I wasn't old enough to see it when it first came out, or maybe I don't know, but I feel like there was maybe, but I feel like it was something in the movie theater where they did like a random double feature of like 2 Richard Pryor movies, because I feel like I saw this and The Toy at the same time.
Director Oz Scott has mostly done television, and recently he's been busy. He's did SWAT, he's done Black Lightning, Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So he's been busy, been doing some stuff recently. Still doing his thing. All right. Next we have, okay, so this one I was surprised because I've not seen this movie. But it's in the top 10 grossing films. It's like at number 9, and this is The Four Seasons, the comedy starring Alan Alda and Carol Burnett. 3 middle-aged wealthy couples take vacations together in spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Along the way, we are treated to midlife, marital, parental, and other crises. Directed by Alan Alda and written by Alan Alda and stars Alan Alda. And like this movie, it was a surprise hit, apparently. I've never seen it. Lacey?
I did see this later on. I think I saw this in Bob and Ted and Carol and Alice, the same kind of around that same time.
I'd never heard of this film before, and it was in a top 10 grossing film this year.
I'm kind of a big Carol Burnett nerd, though, so I know that there was a point where I had gone back and watched all of her stuff. Like I've seen all kinds of, I went on the deep dive for Carol Burnett. So,
gotcha. Kyle, seen it?
I have not seen this. It doesn't surprise me when you consider who's in it, that it made a ton of money. But let's be honest, Kevin, the true reason why you have no memory of this movie is because you have a major mental block whenever it comes to Alan Alda.
It does. I don't find him funny at all. I can't stand MASH.
Really? Okay.
I just don't find his delivery funny, and he always annoyed the heck out of me.
Huh.
Yeah. There's been a couple of like some movies I've seen him where he's kind of a side character and he's fine. But I just don't find his humor and the delivery of his jokes and humor entertaining whatsoever. I don't know what it is about him.
To me, he's like Woody Allen, only funny. Like he's got that kind of like, a lot of his characters kind of have like that sarcasm and they're mostly verbal. They don't, not a lot of action.
To me, there's Woody Allen at the bottom and Alan Alda is almost down there for me.
I think
the problem. I do not like Woody Allen, but I love Alan Alda. I think he's Betsy's Wedding is still one of the funniest things. Just absolutely hilarious. Anyway.
I think Alan Alda is one of those things where it feels like he's always playing the same character.
Yeah.
I did love he had a really good dramatic recurring on West Wing, which is really cool.
He actually had a good run on ER too, which was very interesting. But
nice.
I was trying to remember what else he had been in recently, and that's right. I remember he was in ER. I didn't watch West Wing, so I'm not sure about that. But what else? He was in The Aviator. Ray Donovan. That's right. He was in Ray Donovan. He was actually good in that. It was a serious role. He played Dr. Arthur Amoit. That's where I remember him from recently. He was also good in Bridge of Spies. I remember that as well. But he wasn't Alan Alda in these. That's why. They were dramas. Maybe that's why. I just don't like him in comedy. I don't know. Okay, so the next film's a little weird. All right, and there's a reason why I included in this. First of all, this next film originally came out in 1953, but got kind of buried because of the topic that it touched on. Glennar Glenda is a 1953 American exploitation film written and directed and starring Ed Wood, credited in his starring role as Daniel Davis, and featuring Bela Lugosi and Wood's then-girlfriend Dolores Fuller. It was produced by George Weiss, who also made the exploitation film Test Tube Babies that same year. The film is a docudrama about cross-dressing and transvestism and is a semi-autobiographical in nature. Wood himself was a cross-dresser, and the film is a plea for tolerance. It is widely considered one of the worst films ever made. However, it has become a cult film due to its low-budget production value. So they released this in 1981 and then kind of became a cult hit, kind of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show type thing. And they would kind of it was rediscovered basically and brought out of, I guess, out of the closet, so to speak. I don't know how other way to say it, but became a kind of cult midnight type of thing that you would go see. And it was 81 when it came out. I'd never heard of this film before. Have you guys?
Ed Wood. Well, when I saw the movie Ed Wood, I went back and started kind of rewatching the older Ed Wood movies. I didn't know who he was until the film Ed Wood came out. So, yeah.
The narrative explains that Glenn is a transvestite, but not a homosexual. He hides his cross-dressing from his fiancée, Barbara, fearing that she will reject him. So it's interesting. I mean, that's kind of a brave film to do in the first place, especially in the 50s. Oh, Kyle, have you ever heard of this film?
I have not, but, that's why we have Lacee here. But, yeah, I agree with you. This is a brave...
Oh my goodness.
That's meant as a compliment.
I think Lacee is blushing.
I worked in so many movie stores. Like, I worked in movie stores forever. And so
yeah,
I remember working at the Kroger VHS rentals counter when Ed Wood came out. It was Ed Wood and Quiz Show were the two that we could not keep in.
Yep, I remember that. Oh, trust me, I remember that. I was working at a video counter in a Safeway store. So, but no, as far as this particular one goes, no, it's part of the bizarre world that is Ed Wood, and so it's like you. It's a brave film to do.
I have to mention, too, it was re-released in theaters in 81 by Paramount. In March 1981, Paramount placed a full page in the New York Times announcing the reissue of Glennar Glenda. It was heralded as a lost, trailblazing masterpiece in the tradition of Citizen Kane, 1941, Freaks, 1932, The Godfather, 1972, and Napoleon, 1927. A big New York premiere was scheduled for the reissue, but the date, April 1st, made film buffs suspect the whole thing was an April Fool's joke.
Right.
Paramount abruptly canceled the premiere the night before, citing the attempted assassination of then-President Ronald Reagan on March 30th. The film was quietly put into a limited re-release the next month and started appearing in TV bad movie film festivals soon after. The film is listed among the top 10 best bad films ever made in the official Razzie Movie Guide. So there you go.
And I think he has one other film in the top 10 best.
Plan 9 from Outer Space, right?
Yeah, Plan 9,
Yeah, definitely. Yep. All right, the next film, one of my favorite Sean Connery films of all time. We've covered it here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I think we did it for Lethal Mullet, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Outland, a federal marshal stationed in a mine colony in the future in Jupiter moon of Io uncovers a drug smuggling conspiracy. He gets no help from the workers or authorities when he finds himself marked for murder. Directed by Peter Hyams, of course, starring Sean Connery, Francis Sternhagen, and Peter Boyle. The script was originally intended to be set as a Western period, but writer-director Peter Hyams decided to move it to outer space due to the influence of Alien. And I think there were some set pieces that he borrowed from Alien from 1979 as well. One of my favorite, it's cult favorite. I remember having it on VHS. Kyle, I know you're a fan of this film, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this film too really was one of the things that kind of set a little bit of underratedly set a sci-fi standard for the 80s. And I think
it's basically High Noon in space.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of my favorite Sean Connery performances as well. I mean, I would put it in probably my top 5 of Sean Connery performances.
Very underrated. Yeah. Lacee, have you ever gotten around to seeing this?
It's funny. I obviously missed it when it first came out because it was too old for me, and I think I just never got back to it. I own it. I know I own a copy of it. I could not tell you where it is.
Do yourself a favor and watch it. It's Peter Boyle is really good. He plays kind of like the leader of the. He's basically the main villain. He's the one that controls the Union on this space station. So he controls also everything that comes in and comes out. And Sean Connery, who's new to the station, has to deal with him and these people that Peter Boyle sends to try and kill him.
I was just going to say, I think this was probably one of those, at least to the early to mid 80s, was one of those mainstay VHS rentals.
Yeah, and it failed in the box office. I think it think it got even, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But I don't remember it in the theaters, but I definitely caught it on VHS later on. So,
Gotcha.
All right. Sorry, Lacey?
Nothing. I just said, that's cool.
Cool. Check it out. It's great. May 29th, Polyester by director John Waters. A suburban housewife world falls apart when she finds that her pornographer husband is serially unfaithful to her. Her daughter is pregnant, and her son is suspected of being a foot fetishist who's been breaking local women's feet. Starring Divine, of course, John Waters' muse. First John Waters movie to garner an R rating in the U.S. All of Waters' previous pictures stateside have been rated X or unrated. I've seen several of his films, including Pink Flamingos. I think that was the first one that I saw because it was like the naughty one. And like, does she really eat poop? I mean, what's going on here? And then, of course, I've seen his most of his stuff later on. But this one went over my head. Didn't even really hear about it. Lacey, did you ever see this one? Are you a fan of John Waters?
I am not. I mean, I've never been a fan of being controversial for the sake of being controversial, and I feel like that's kind of he's kind of like he's kind of the Howard Stern of indie movies. It kind of feels like. I mean, don't get me wrong, Howard Stern's got some interesting things to say. Whatever. I'm not. I haven't ever really been a big John Waters fan. I think
Gotcha.
I think Pecker was the last one I saw, and I kind of gave up after that.
Gotcha. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm not a big John Waters fan. I'm kind of with Lacey. He just does things to do things, and it just doesn't feel like he's really accomplishing anything. I had never even actually heard of this film, so.
I'm not a big fan of his films, but I did like Serial Mom. I thought that was funny. It's a dark comedy, a housewife who commits murder. Very funny. But most of his films, not a big fan of. I remember Crybaby, and that was okay. But yeah, not a big fan. Okay. We're going to hit June of 1981 shortly, but first we're going to take a break from our time warp and let you know what other great podcasts are here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We'd like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom. All right, welcome back to Time Warp 1981 Part 3. We're in June right now, and coming up is Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams. Disguised as ice cream vendors, Cheech and Chong make make and subsequently lose millions of dollars selling a batch of marijuana with an unusual side effect. Of course, directed by Tommy Chong and starring Tommy Chong, Cheech Marin. I remember in, I guess, junior high, it was cool to try to watch these Cheech and Chong films, and because all the stoner kids would want to see them and stuff like that. And I've become a huge fan of Cheech Marin as well on top of that. And you know, I remember watching, I think, all of these at some guy's house all weekend, like later in the late 80s, early 90s or whatever it was. Lacee, you a fan of these films?
I was explicitly prohibited from watching Cheech and Chong movies, even into my...
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that you did not get to watch the 7 Cheech and Chong movies?
yeah. No, I do know. I know I've seen 1 or 2 at some point, but I could not tell you which ones I saw. I mean, there's a through line. You know, you got to give it. There's a through line in all these films.
These movies are the definition of stoner comedies.
Yeah,
basically.
Absolutely. And I couldn't tell you which 2. Maybe I might have seen 2 out of 5, but I could not tell you which ones I saw. So perhaps I saw it.
What about you, Kyle?
I have seen all the Cheech and Chong movies at some point. That was the advantage of having an older half sister who would rent movies on the sly, and you know, hey, watch this on night when she's babysitting me and things like that. But I'm a huge Cheech Marin fan. I think he's great. Yeah, of the 2,
I loved him in Nash Bridges.
Yeah, he was great in Nash Bridges. He did a very underrated movie that I loved called Born in East L.A.
Ah, yes. Shrimp on the Barbie was my favorite.
Yeah, that's probably
the
you're
one
right.
where he goes
yeah.
to Australia.
Yeah, I love that one too.
And Tommy Chong was he was kind of a mainstay on that 70s show, right?
Yep.
He didn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
He, in fact,
wasn't he the father of one of them?
He was the father of the one of Hyde. He was Hyde's father.
Yes.
Oh, I thought he owned the restaurant. I thought he ran the cafe place.
He did for a while, but it turned out he was Hyde's father.
Really? Okay.
Well.
Yeah. All right. Next, we've got The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. A small town stud wants to go to Nashville and be a big country star. His ambitious kid sister works as his manager. When they cross paths with a small town sheriff, their dreams come in jeopardy. Starring Christy McNichol, Dennis Quaid, and Mark Hamill. Dennis Quaid and Christy McNichol did their own singing. Vicki Lawrence sang the original hit song, of course, which went to #1 in gold in 1972. The film uses the song title and nothing else. Lawrence had nothing to do with the film. Never saw this movie, guys, but the song I've heard a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Lacee, have you seen The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia?
I have. I do remember bits and pieces of it. I love Christy McNichol. She's been in so many of my favorites. I loved her in the Pirate movie is in my top 10. You know, then you've got several other, you know, Little Darlings and that kind of stuff. I remember seeing this movie. I remember Dennis Quaid being like the aw shucksy Dennis Quaid that we all love, like that young Dennis Quaid. I didn't realize that Mark Hamill was the sheriff until I watched the trailer again. I was like, oh my gosh, that was.
I kind of want to see this now because of that.
Yeah.
Kyle?
I have never seen this. I know there was a lot of people have talked about this film, and obviously with that cast of a young Dennis Quaid, a young Mark Hamill, and Christy McNichol, who for a while was in that competition for America's Sweetheart a little bit. But yeah, I'm very familiar with the song, not so much familiar with the movie.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, what have we got next? We have got Clash of the Titans.
Wait, Kevin, you gotta let me say it.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Unleash the Kraken!
Not bad. I've heard better, but not bad. This I remember seeing in the theater. This was one of the big ones and played a lot. Of course, starring Laurence Olivier, Harry Hamlin, Claire Bloom. Yes. This movie is legendary. Ursula Andress in this as well. Maggie Smith, Pat Roach. Do you guys remember who Pat Roach was? He played Hephaestus. He was the big burly German that Indiana Jones had to fight at the plane, and then he also was the big. He was also in Indy 2 as the big guy that he fought while rescuing the kids. Burgess.
He was also the one. He was also in the bar scene. He was the
yes. He played one of the bar scene thugs in Nepal. Yes. Mm-hmm. Burgess Meredith as well. Just great adventure sorcery film. Kyle, I know this was one of your favorites.
Oh, this was a big time favorite for me growing up. I had this recorded on VHS. I would watch this several times a year. I mean, come on. You have the Greek mythology. You've got all the Medusa. You've got Pegasus. You've got the Kraken. You've got Zeus. You've got Perseus. This was everything you wanted as a kid in these movies. And you get that classic stop motion animation. Lawrence, as you get older and you realize the great Laurence Olivier, find and fulfill your destiny, Perseus.
Medusa scared the crap out of me.
The Medusa effects, I think, were still really good even now. But yeah, this is just one of the classics, and we don't talk about modern day remakes of Clash of the Titans.
And also, when I write these notes, I always put the poster for the movie. One of the most classic movie posters of all time, I would say. Lacey, you're a fan, I hear.
Love the original. I agree that we do not speak of the remakes. I love Ray Harryhausen. Like, I think this was the first time I realized kind of who he was, and sort of started realizing that, that looks like the same type of thing, between that and what was it, Jason the Argonaut?
Jason and the Argonaut.
So you're saying you're not a fan of the remakes?
I mean, I went and saw it with my best friend, and we were very excited to see it. And there was one line that just till the day she died, we would crack each other up by, if one of us is in a bad mood, the other one would just say, "Calm your storm," and we would just crack up. It was. Oh my god!
I enjoyed them in the theater, the remakes, but I ended up picking them up because I had a Blu-ray that had the remakes, the first Clash of the Titans remake, and then Wrath of the Titans, but then it had the original Clash on it, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy that one for just that. But also the second movie we've talked about in this podcast, starring Harry Hamlin.
Yeah,
right on. I have not seen Wrath of the Titans. Like, I haven't seen the second one. My favorite part though was Bibo, the
Bobo.
No, it's Bibo. Wasn't it Bibo?
I think it was Bobo.
The owl. Yeah, the owl was.
Well, that was. I mean, just the weapons in themselves. He gets the sword. He gets that shield. Bobo, because he loses the shield. He has the helmet of invisibility. But this was one of the better portrayals, I think, too, of the gods of Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
It's Bubo.
Yeah.
Well, just it's classic. It's so much. I mean, yes, some of the effects are dated, but it's just so much fun. You don't care, Yeah. And back then, definitely made a huge impact on us. So, all right, next is one of my favorites, and I just recently rewatched this. And that is History of the World Part 1, directed by Mel Brooks, written by Mel Brooks, and starring Mel Brooks, Gregory Hines, and Dom DeLuise. Mel Brooks brings his one-of-a-kind magic touch to the history of mankind, covering events of the Old Testament to the French Revolution in a series of episodic comedy vignettes. This movie is responsible for popularizing the catchphrase, "It's good to be the king." That's because he says it like 6 times in this. Mm-hmm. The expression is said by Mel Brooks during the French Revolution segment, Mel as Rabbi Tuckman, and repeated the line in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Lacey, are you a fan of History of the World Part 1?
I am a fan of Mel Brooks. This one, I think I saw that kind of late in my viewing of his catalog, so it's not one of my favorites, but it does have some fantastic moments in it. So, yes, I have seen it. I did enjoy it.
Kyle.
Not my favorite Mel Brooks film, but I can recognize its place in history, and it does have its moments, but give me some Young Frankenstein and some Spaceballs.
This movie's I guess it's in my top 5 of his. You know, I really like this, and I gotta tell you, I forgot how funny Gregory Hines was, because Gregory Hines was funny in this, and he was also great in Running Scared with Billy Crystal, which I wish they would have made a sequel to. I think it was an '86 film, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Great comedic buddy cop film. You're a fan of that movie as well, Lacey, I assume?
I love Gregory Hines. The man can do no wrong. Absolutely, yes.
Wasn't he also in Will and Grace as a guest? He was in some comedy series. I want to say Will and Grace.
I feel like you're right on that.
Limited series, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a yes, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't give you any more than that. It sounds
all right. Familiar. The next is a film I don't remember seeing because it was released on the same day as Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that's The Legend of the Lone Ranger. The sole surviving Texas Ranger, played by Clinton Spilsbury, of an ambush arranged by the outlaw leader Major Bartholomew Butch Cavendish, played by Christopher Lloyd, returns to fight back as the great masked Western hero, the Lone Ranger. Also starring Michael Horse. I never saw this version of the Lone Ranger. I remember the original TV series, and then fortunately saw the Johnny Depp version later on, which was not good. Did you guys see this film, Lacey?
Yeah, I was a huge Lone Ranger fan. I remember I've seen anything that I can get my hands on this Lone Ranger. I loved it as a kid.
Was it good, this version?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more, there was a lot more like catchphrase, horse, rearing back, and then the here
Hi-Ho Silver,
the music and the Hi-Ho Silver. Yeah, there was a lot more of that than in a traditional. Usually in the television episodes you get that once, right? You get the
Jason Robards played President Grant in this.
Yeah, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I remember enjoying it. I could, but let's face it, there's so much content for Lone Ranger. I could be kind of melding it all together at this point.
Kyle, do you remember this movie?
I remember this movie putting me to sleep. This was one of the most dull interpretations of the Lone Ranger I think ever made. And the sad part is I actually feel like this movie at the time got even more marketing than the Raiders of the Lost Ark at the time.
It probably did.
Because I think they were really...
Raiders of the Lost Ark didn't have a lot... Raiders of the Lost Ark caught on after it opened.
Because I remember seeing this Lone Ranger poster everywhere. And I remember my dad kind of actually even being kind of excited about him being a Lone Ranger fan when he was a kid. But it didn't take off and it got killed by Raiders. And I don't... to be honest with you, it still blows my mind to this day that we haven't been able to do a successful Lone Ranger film. Plus, I think we were at a time in Hollywood where they didn't know how to do a Western in Hollywood in the early 80s.
Yeah, and the one with Johnny Depp was too much Johnny Depp. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't the Lone Ranger. It was Tonto. It was all about, yeah. But I'm trying to see who the I'm trying to figure out who the studios were for between Raiders and Lone Ranger, because you got to wonder if it was the same studio and they just tried to bank on Lone Ranger because it had that like kind of built-in popularity.
Yeah, let me see if I can find out real quick who that was.
Oh, Paramount. No, well, it's on Paramount Plus right now if you want to watch it. The Lone Ranger. Yeah.
I kind of don't want to, especially after what Kyle said.
I mean, it has an IMDb rating of 5.1 out of 10. So, I mean,
that's not good. I don't know.
Right.
So the movie that crushed it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, released the same day.
Really? I've never heard of that. Tell me about it.
Well, if you're curious about it, we actually just did a couch potato theater. We had several awesome people on that talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark because of its 40th anniversary as of June 12th, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow.
In case you don't know who Indiana Jones is, it takes place in 1936. Archaeologist and adventurer Indiana Jones is hired by the U.S. government to find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis do to obtain it for its awesome powers. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written, of course, by Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas. Stars a guy named Harrison Ford, who, by the way, is his birthday today as we speak on July 13th.
Yes.
Karen Allen and Paul Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, my favorite movie of all time. Now, we've already talked about this awesome movie on Couch Potato Theater, but I want you guys to say anything else you may have forgotten to say, or just to remind us of how awesome it is. Lacey?
The only thing that I forgot to say on the podcast when we did it was that I have an autograph card from John Rhys Davies from, you were talking about, like, do you have a memento? And yes. I forgot that I had that. But I have an autograph card from like a.
Did he sign a solid card?
Yeah. It was an Indiana Jones pack that I randomly got in an auction where that was like,
nice.
It was like 7 or 10 different random ones and nobody was bidding on it. So I was like, well, it's for charity. Like, it's for the babies. So I got it for like, $20 or something. And I opened it up and I was like, oh,
sweet.
Okay.
Sweet. Kyle?
There's not, I mean, we like I said, we covered it in depth on Couch Potato Theater. This is one of the greatest movies of all time, a genre-defining film, one of the greatest characters of all time, one of the greatest directors of all time, one of the best actors of all time. This is, like I said during the Couch Potato Theater, this is a perfect film. I
was just going to say, Lacey.
Yes.
I think that this is it falls under that small category of perfect films, like Galaxy Quest, Princess Bride, stuff like that. Would you say this movie falls under that category for you?
Yes, I would. Absolutely. Oh. Yes, indeed.
And Showgirls as well, right?
You don't know me. Sorry.
All right. June 19th, we had Cannonball Run. A wide variety of eccentric competitors participate in a wild and illegal cross-country road race. However, the eccentric entrants will do anything to win the road race, including low-down dirty tricks. Directed by Hal Needham, starring Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, Farrah Fawcett, a plethora of stars in this film. Jack Elam, Dean Martin, Dom DeLuise, Sammy Davis Jr., Adrian Barbeau, Jackie Chan, Terry Bradshaw, Burt Convey, Jamie Farr, Peter Fonda. Oh gosh, it goes on and on. Hal Needham, by the way, Kyle, we know who he is. Directed one of our favorite films.
I'm feeling it. Was it 1 then 2, Kevin?
It's 1 then 2. Okay. You love him in red, you love him in blue, but mostly
you love him in blue.
That's right. We're talking about Megaforce, one of our favorite films. This movie's fun. It's silly. By the way, we were talking about this before. How, Kyle, the Fast and Furious films have gotten pretty ridiculous, but I will still watch them.
Absolutely.
But I would love for them to actually do their own version of a cross-country race with higher stakes and be forced to do a type of Cannonball Run. Can you imagine the Fast and Furious crew doing a Cannonball Run style race?
I mean, come on.
But with like, life or death stakes instead. Can you imagine that?
Come on.
Well, I feel like number 10 is going to have to be in space because they've done everything else.
No, Kevin and I talked about this.
Race cars out of the way, then we can come back down to earth and maybe do like a light comical, But they did try to kind of do a television remake of the Cannonball Run when they did Drive, but it only lasted 6 episodes, and I was devastated because it was Nathan Fillion's next, kind of thing.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that show, and it got the Fillion jinx at the time. We like to say, but Kevin and I discussed this. F10, the Cannonball Run, bringing it back to its roots. Grounding it again. But no, this is one of those movies that was it was an all-star cast, but it works great. Roger Moore's phenomenal in this too. I love Jackie Chan.
To have a race car be a paramedic. Ambulance, I thought was genius at the time.
I mean, this is Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise at their apex of their partnership too, because you cannot go wrong with this film. I am a big fan of this.
Sammy Davis Jr. and Martin Dean Martin as the two priests, and this is the first film I ever saw, or the first film I remember seeing that had the outtakes at the end.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of like the first one that I go.
It had the outtakes at the end because it had Jackie Chan in it.
Yeah,
right.
And that's what Jackie Chan does. And it was the first time I remember seeing Jackie Chan, even though I didn't know who he was at the time.
And let's not forget, Dom DeLuise had that superhero character he would play in these two films.
Yes,
him.
Yeah,
just him.
All right. Speaking of superheroes, next movie is Superman 2. Superman agrees to sacrifice his powers to start a relationship with Lois Lane, unaware that 3 Kryptonian criminals he inadvertently released are conquering Earth. Now, stars Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeves, and Margot Kidder. Directors are Richard Lester and Richard Donner, uncredited. Okay. Gene Hackman did not return to do reshoots for the second film. All of his scenes were originally filmed by Richard Donner. Other scenes shot by the new director that required Hackman used a look-alike and voice impersonator to add any lines needed. In a 2004 interview, Margot Kidder claimed that Richard Donner shot enough scenes to make his own cut of the film that was unused footage was somewhere in a vault. The website started a petition for Warner Brothers to allow and sponsor Donner's cut of this film. The footage was re-edited into Superman. And Christopher Reeve felt that this was his best film of the franchise. So I got a question for you, Kyle. I wanted to go back and watch this film. I bought the Donner cut. I have the regular version. Which one should I watch?
I'm still a fan of the regular version, but I think the Donner cut is worth the watch for the history of it as well. I would have been curious to see how this would have reacted with the Donner cut had actually made it out. Obviously,
there must have been a falling out with Donner.
Yeah, there was a big falling out.
Yeah,
it was budgeting. The theater, the studio basically got to the point where they were like, "Look, man, we're not giving you any more money," and he was like, "Okay, well, what do you want me to do?" Because they started asking for clips before. There's actually a really interesting documentary on the Donner cut Blu-ray.
Okay. I'll watch that one because I'm kind of curious how that one goes. But yeah,
my thing is that they did use a lot of the scenes that they used were pulled from the leftovers of Superman. Of the first one. I made the mistake of watching Superman and then the Donner cut back to back, which has some repetitiveness in it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to watch Superman 2, the Donner cut, watch it by itself.
Yeah. Don't watch the first one before you watch.
Don't watch the first one first. If you want to watch 2 good Superman movies back to back, watch 1 and 2 without watching, not the Donner cut.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good thing. Cause I have like the original Superman movie on Blu-ray, and then I have the Donner cut. The Donner cut special features includes commentary by Richard Donner, an introduction by Richard Donner, and a new featurette, Superman 2 Restoring the Vision, and deleted scenes. And then I got this one that has Superman, the regular Superman, the movie, Superman 2, the regular version, and Superman 3 and 4 all together in one thing. So I guess if you want to do a little marathon, it's best to just watch the original versions first and then go back and watch the Donner cut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. I will say this is the best from the time this came out until 1989. This was by far the best comic book movie ever made.
Superman 2?
Superman 2, yes.
Okay.
I think
so. You like the original version more than the Donner cut?
I think just as a whole, either cut you can say that about. I mean,
so you think that? So you're saying the sequels are better than the original one?
I say Superman 2 is better than the original because I think Superman 2. The thing about Superman 2 is we got, as a comic book film, we got the superpowered villains to challenge Superman. Terrence Stamp is phenomenal as General Zod in this film. And really, too, I mean, when you add in Jack O'Halloran and Sarah Douglas as Ursa and Non, they just made a great threat to Superman. I think Christopher Reeves felt a lot more comfortable playing Superman this go around. Gotcha. Margot Kidder is always outstanding. I think if anything, a little bit maybe is that Gene Hackman was not exactly super thrilled with how everything went down, and it kind of made for some not fun things with the film. But I think as far as being a true comic book film, this is by far the better. This set the bar for a very long time.
Cool. All right.
I gotta say though, I feel I'm a Superman 1, like the original Superman for me. You know what it is? It's because of my favorite line in the movie. Superman 2, it's General, would you like to step outside?
Yeah.
Before they go through that's kind of like my favorite line from Superman 2. For me, the best line in the original Superman is, "You've got me, who's got you?" Like
right,
right?
Classic.
And so I feel like that.
You got me, but who's got you?
Right, exactly. And I think that for me, Superman 1 trumps Superman 2, but
Gotcha.
It's all good.
Following June 26th, we have the release of Dragon Slayer. A young wizardling apprentice is sent to kill a dragon, which has been devouring girls from a nearby kingdom. Director Matthew Robbins, starring Peter McNichol, Caitlin Clark, and Ralph Richardson. George R.R. Martin, author of a Song of Ice and Fire novels, upon which Game of Thrones is based, said that Bermuthrax is the best dragon ever shown on film. One of the deceased dragons mentioned in the first season of the series by Viserys Targaryen was named Bermuthrax. This was the first movie to use Go Motion, a variant of stop motion animation in which parts of the model, in this case the dragon, were mechanized and the movie programmed by computer. During shooting, the computer moves the model while the camera is shooting, resulting in motion blur, which makes the animation more convincing. I'll be honest with you, this was one of the films I had not seen until like the last 5 years, I think. I ended up buying it on Blu-ray. We were maybe talking about it one time or whatever, and I enjoyed it. It was fun, good sword and sorcery film. Kyle, your thoughts on Dragon Slayer?
I love Dragon Slayer. I remember I saw this in the theaters. I made my dad take me to this movie. I got it. I was a rental on VHS. What a lot of people forget about this movie is this was a Disney film. Yes, it was in joint with Paramount, but Disney got top billing at the time on this. And this is when Disney was making films and they really didn't care who they upset or not, because you had Dragon Slayer, you had the oddball Condor Man film, you also had Black Cauldrons around this time as well. This is a very interesting period in Disney film history, but I absolutely love this movie. It wasn't until I got a little older and got more familiar with Peter McNichol that I realized who that was, and it just made me appreciate it even more. But the effects, I think, still hold up. It is one of the better dragons they have done. And I remember the one thing I will always remember to this day is when he's fighting the dragon and him just behind the shield, shielding himself from the fire, like again and again, like it was a video game level he was stuck on and trying to figure out. But this was
it's like the ultimate boss level fight scene.
Yeah, yeah. It was this movie to this day, I think, like Clash of the Titans in its own way, holds up very, very well.
Also co-starred the Emperor himself, Ian McDiarmid. Lacey, are you a fan of this film?
I love this movie. It was one of the first, I told my dad that we went on a Saturday. I made my dad take me to go see it at the movie theater. I loved it. I think there's a lot that kind of went over my head when I was at that age, but I do think it holds up. I've watched it, I've introduced many people. I went back to school at 35 for film school. So I introduced a whole lot of 18-year-olds to this movie back in like 2010. And they were all like, what? It's kind of one of those ones that it really does hold up over the years.
So, I was looking at the director, Matthew Robbins. He hasn't directed a lot. He's written a lot, but what he has directed is interesting. He did Batteries Not Included.
Great
film.
He
did an episode of Amazing Stories, and he did The Legend of Billie Jean, and one of my favorites, Corvette Summer.
I gotta add in on this movie too, Kevin.
The sequel to Star Wars, by the way. The real sequel to Star Wars.
Yeah. Dragon Slayer was a movie that was really, actually, a whole generation missed out on Dragon Slayer because you could not find this movie for a very long time. This was at a time when Disney pulled a bunch of quote-unquote controversial films to Disney, and it disappeared.
It wasn't on VHS for a while, right?
It disappeared for almost, 10 to 15 years, it felt like, Lacey, before it became readily available again. It was kind of like when Disney realized, now we can bring back the Black Cauldron, and they brought back this around the same time that Disney was like, okay, yeah, we're going to recognize this again. And I think it was in part because they were getting a little pressure from Paramount, too.
And I think, because I vaguely remember having, maybe a beta, like a maybe it was a beta copy, or maybe it was something I had taped off of TV or something on like an old TBS, where like I remember there were commercials and stuff in it.
I think I had a recording off of HBO for Dragon Slayer.
Maybe. Okay, I don't know. But yeah, I remember wearing out my VHS copy or beta copy, whatever it was. Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this is the only movie released under the Disney name with frontal male nudity, when Peter McNichol jumps in the water with his legs swing wide, providing a quick shot of his genitals. Maybe that's why they hid it for a while.
I was 8. I didn't really notice.
All right, next we have the Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only. James Bond is assigned to find a missing British vessel equipped with a weapons encryption device and prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Directed by John Glenn, starring Roger Moore, Carol Bouquet. The title song is the first in the James Bond film franchise in which we see the person who is singing. In this case, Sheena Easton. The song was a top 10 hit on both the UK charts, number 8, and the USA charts, number 4. It received an Academy Award nomination for Best Song and was featured in a song and dance number at the Oscars on March 29th, 1982. Starting with this movie and the rise of the MTV generation, all Bond movies have had music video tie-in. Jeremy Bulloch, who plays Smithers, the guy testing Q's gadget with a fake cast in his arm, appeared in The Spy Who Loved Me. As an HMS Ranger crewman, he returns as Smithers in Octopussy in '83. He also played Boba Fett in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And of course, this has a movie poster, which was a very popular movie poster style for many, many years, where it shows a woman's legs and some action going on in between them.
Wait! Didn't Andy Sedaris capitalize this on every film he ever made?
Yes, pretty much. Lacee, are you a fan of James Bond and a fan of this movie?
I am a fan of James Bond. I have all of my father's paperback copies of all of the books, and I have all the movies. I love it. It's amazing. This one in particular was kind of it almost felt like a play, in that it had so many different locations. I mean, even if you just watch the trailer, you've got, there's the island section, and then there's the kind of the foresty section, and then there's the snow section, and it almost felt like he had, 3 Bond girls in this film, not just the one. This was a kind of one of the standouts in my opinion, out of the, 23 Bond movies now, 24. Yeah. This is one of the standouts for me.
Okay, so probably your favorite Roger Moore movie, maybe.
I'll give it top 2. I'd have to.
Moonraker's my favorite.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Jaws is kind of. You always get. For me, I gauge the hero by the villain.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, he was in a few of them. So yeah, Kyle, your thoughts on this one?
This was actually kind of my introduction to James Bond, just because of my age and when this came out and things like that. But I went back and watched a lot of James Bond after this. But this is one of my favorite Roger Moore films. I'm with you. Moonraker's probably my top dog here. But this was one of the more interesting Bond films, and I think this was a big change in shift for James Bond, because it became a lot more designed for the MTV movie generation, as they said there. And but it's one of the more fun James Bond films, without a doubt.
Moonraker was the first Bond movie I saw in the theater. I remember I was kind of on a chaperone play date, maybe. I can't remember, but I remember I was with a girl and our parents both went to the movie and stuff. But I remember that. I think I may have seen some Sean Connery films on television prior to that, but Moonraker was the one that really kind of brought me into the Bond thing. And of course, Moonraker was inspired by Star Wars because of the space stuff going on. And so a lot of people think it's one of the cheesiest, but I love it. But also, this movie also had Julian Glover in this film. Of course, we know him from General Veers for Empire Strikes Back, and he played Walter Donovan, the villain in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. All right, next we have is a film that I was hoping to have seen before we recorded this. So I'm going to have to report back to you because when I bought it on eBay, I think it's coming from overseas, but I really wanted to see this film. And this is Force 5. A martial arts expert leads a team of fellow martial artists to rescue a senator's daughter from an island ruled by an evil leader of fanatical religious cult. Kyle, this sounds like the plot of every American ninja film.
This sounds like what needs to happen is Adam O'Brien needs to make a magical appearance in this podcast right about now.
Oh, yes. I'm going to actually champion that he watched this film, and we may be covered for that. But this has Joe Lewis, Sonny Barnes, Richard Norton, a bunch of action heroes at the time. Oh, a young Amanda Wyss is in this. Okay, she was in a couple Highlander series. But I saw the trailer for this, and this looks so much fun. It looks so cheesy. I can't wait to see it. Lacey.
I got nothing on this. I'm in. I want to see. I need to see this movie. Like I am 100% down to see this. But I looked it up, and it's not available on Amazon or whatever. So I've kind of been. I have the little thing saved so I can search it occasionally, and I've searched it several times, and I can't find a copy of it for a reasonable price. So I'm still on the hunt.
By the way, I was looking at King of the Mountain. We were talking earlier to see if it was on Amazon, and they have it on DVD and Blu-ray. And then below it, the other suggested movie is Dragon Slayer. Kyle, do you want to see Force 5?
I would definitely be willing to check this out. Don't know anything about it until we brought it up for this, but come on, it's a lethal kind of movie, which means we got to watch it.
Well, the director kind of knows his martial arts genre, Robert Klaus.
Yep.
Because he did Enter the Dragon, he did Game of Death, and he also was the writer for Dragon, the 1993 Bruce biopic film. He's also done the China O'Brien. And Kyle, he also directed Jim Cotta. Remember that one? He also did an episode of the Master TV series, which was based on martial arts. Game of Death, as I mentioned. He knows his martial arts, so I'm thinking that's why he did this film. All right, Force 5, you are on my to-do list. I
also want to get Hot Potato, because apparently it's a loose remake of Hot Potato. So I also want to get Hot Potato just to see.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for mentioning that. That is a martial arts expert tries to escape an ambassador's daughter who was kidnapped in Thailand. Boy, that sounds familiar plot. Starring Jim Kelly. That movie came out in 1976. Ooh, that looks like fun. All right. I'm going to have to look on Amazon for that too as well. All right, next we have one of my favorite sequels of all time. Kyle, did we bring this up? That is the Muppet Caper, the Great Muppet Caper. Did we bring this up in our decision of top sequels of all time? I did not.
I don't know, but I'm with you. I love this. I love this film. I think there's a big group of people out there who feel this is better than the original Muppet movie.
It is. It totally is.
I know that when on your Facebook list, I actually wrote that one out.
I did. Okay, thank you.
I we're including Muppet movies.
Well, let's talk about the people who are in this film besides the Muppets. So you've got a great performance by the late Charles Grodin, who was phenomenal in this.
He was a villain, right?
Yeah, he was a villain. He was the one trying to steal the gems and seduce Miss Piggy away from Kermit.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
The baseball diamond.
Yeah, the baseball diamond, yes. But more importantly, we have the wonderful Diana Rigg as Lady Holiday. John Cleese was in this. Peter Ustinov was in this. And, of course, all the great Muppets all over the place. If I remember correctly in this one, too, they said Kermit and Fozzie were brothers. But one of the things I remember was their air travel to get to London, where they were down in the pet complex, and Gonzo was a photographer, and his camera had frozen to his hand. And of course the Crazy Hotel, which was of course run by the Electric Mayhem.
Yes, the best band of all time. Yes. This movie was so much fun. I remember the guy, I forget the character, the Muppet guy with the bulgy eyes, says, "I brought the paper towels." Remember when they're trying to like scale up the walls? I brought the paper towel. Who is that guy? I can't remember.
I can't think of his name, but
I
don't know why that always makes me laugh. Like, who needs the paper towels? He's got paper towels.
And of course, a great cameo appearance by Sam the Eagle.
Yes. Lacee, you love the Muppets. I know you do. You better say you do.
I love the Muppets. I actually, there's an artist named Vaughn Belak who has an amazing style, and I had him paint for me my two favorite Grumpy Old Men. So my Statler and my Waldorf paintings hang in my living room to the right side balcony of my television. I love the Muppets. I've all of it. It's they're all amazing. There's not one. Everyone has a favorite. I love them all.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. This movie is so rewatchable for me. I like the first one. I found it a little boring at times. The music's great, but this one, it was exciting. It was fun. And Jim Henson's theatrical movie directorial debut, the Great Gonzo classification as a whatever, is officially cemented in this movie, as this is the label affixed to a shipping crate en route to Great Britain. Don't we find out later he's an alien?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
from space.
I prefer him as a whatever. So
yeah. All right.
Wait.
Final
Zach Morris timeout. I'm invoking my Zach Morris timeout because we must express an issue before Kevin is allowed to even talk about this film. Because up until just a few scant weeks ago, Kevin Reitzel had never seen Stripes.
What?
I'm just speechless at this because I do not know how throughout cable, VHS, even in modern era cable, how you have managed to avoid 40 years of one of the best Bill Murray movies of all time.
Okay, so the last film we're going to be speaking of, and probably the last podcast I'll ever do, is Stripes. Two friends who are dissatisfied with their jobs decide to join the army for a bit of fun. Directed by Ivan Reitman, of course, stars Bill Murray, John Candy, and Harold Ramis. According to Ivan Reitman, Bill Murray insisted that Harold Ramis be cast as his friend for two reasons. One, they were longtime friends in real life. Two, so Ramis could help Murray rewrite his dialogue or help him improvise. Bill Murray agreed to do the film 2 weeks before shooting began. He did not show up until the third day of shooting because he was attending the Chicago Cubs baseball games instead. Yes, this was one of those films that, for whatever reason, I've never seen. I did not have pay television growing up as a family. I know it was on constant repeat on HBO and all the pay channels. I had a pay channel briefly in the 90s just so I could watch and record heavy metal late one night, and then I got rid of it after a while. And this was one of the films I've been meaning to get to, but just never presented itself. And as we were going to be doing 1981, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and buy this freaking movie because apparently it's good. And I bought the version that you can buy now, and it's affordable and cheap, that includes like an extra 10 or 15 minutes of cut footage put back into the film. And as you're watching the film, it lets you know, as these scenes come up, it lets you know that this was a cut scene that was not in the original one. So you can buy that. Very, very funny. Really enjoyed this. It gets a little weird at the end, but I really enjoyed it anyway. And I can't believe this is one of those films. And apparently when I posted this, Kyle, you were no help to me for, standing up for me, but I got kind of lambasted for not seeing this film.
Kevin, I'm sorry. I love you like a brother, but there is no excuse in this case.
Thank you for being on my side, Kyle. Lacee, will you help me out here, please?
I vaguely remember that my post on that was that I was so jealous that you were getting ready to see this for the first time, because it's one of those movies where when you see it for the first time, there's this, it's so fun. I mean, there's just so much going on. It's one line after the next, and you can't laugh too loud or you'll miss the next line. You'll miss the next joke.
Watching this movie made me realize something.
Okay.
How much I miss John Candy.
Oh, yeah.
He was great in this. He is a comic genius. treasure. I really miss him. He died way too young, and I just started thinking about all the films that he's been in that I like, and Uncle Buck, of course, probably one of my favorites. But I totally missed him in this. Yeah. All right, so that brings us to an end of Time Warp 1981 Movies and Pop Culture Part 3. But we have some comments from social media about these films, and I thought we'd give a little love. I put a little post on Facebook saying, these are the films we're going to be covering this episode. Give us our thoughts. And Carl Nordstrom said, Clash of the Titans, one of my favorite fantasy movies growing up. Medusa was the first monster on screen I remember that truly scared me as an 11-year-old. Superman 2, my first real superhero movie that introduced me to comic books. Christopher Reeve is and always will be the prime example of Superman. And he said, did you know Superman 2 was filmed over 50% of the film directly... says Superman 2 was filmed over 50% of the film directly after the first movie. That's why some scenes, Reeve and Kidder look way older than some other scenes, because the rest of the film was filmed 3 years later. I got to keep an eye out for that. And I asked Carl, do you prefer the original theatrical release or the Donner cut? He says, I like the Donner cut, obviously. They kind of screwed that guy with the film, so it's nice to see his actual vision. My buddy Kat said, some classics here. The History of the World Part 1, Raiders, Clash of the Titans, For Your Eyes Only, Cheech and Chong. But Force 5, such a cheesy martial arts movie, just bad. Jennifer Walk says, okay, 2 I really love. Raiders is a given. Polyester, because John Waters and Divine are geniuses. I could watch their movies all day long, plus Odorama, come on. Dragon Slayer only because it was either one of the first VHS tapes we had or it was on continuous loop on HBO at some point. But I love the fantasy aspect, and it kind of tied in with my D&D days. My buddy Dan Lee says The Evil Dead, Halloween 2, Escape from New York, American Werewolf, Stripes, Porky's, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Enter the Ninja, Raging Bull, Cannonball Run. As far as pop culture, Ronald Reagan became president, The DeLorean came out, and Ozzy's Diary of a Madman and Motley Crue's Too Fast for Love came out. And I said, a few of those movies we'll cover soon. Good stuff. Patrick Hine said Raiders and For Your Eyes Only were my favorites that year and saw each in the theater twice. Being a car guy, biggest disappointment was Cannonball Run. Gumball Rally was a far better movie. I can't remember if I've seen Gumball Rally. Have you guys seen it?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, sounds like it's a cross-country race. I think it is. I just never got around to seeing it. And Nathan Miracle says, the only 2 I know are Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Great Muppet Caper. The former is probably my favorite Indiana Jones film. The latter is decently good Muppet film, but not as good as the original. All right. Okay, so any final thoughts on this group of films? Lacey, let me start with you. And also, is there any of these that you want to go back or that you want to watch that you haven't seen?
Yeah, I would just like to highlight Stripes one more time and say that if you haven't seen John Larroquette in his best, in my opinion.
Apparently, I'm the only one on earth that hasn't seen this film, Lacey, according to that Facebook post I put.
You know what? It's all good. I love John Larroquette, and I think that this is one of his funniest. I feel like John Larroquette's portrayal in this is almost the captain from Police Academy. I don't know which came first, but it's just
this one came first, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that he was probably the inspiration then for the captain in Police Academy. Absolutely fantastic. As far as favorites, I think just kind of scrolling back through, I would say probably for me, it's Cannonball and Raiders and Clash of the Titans. I did order, let's see, what did I order? I ordered King of the Mountain. I ordered Hard Country, I think. And did I order Bustin' Loose? Anyway, I ordered 2 or 3. And so those are the ones that I will watch before we talk again.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Kyle, what are your favorites on this? And is there any that you haven't seen on this list that you kind of want to go see now?
Well, as far as the ones that I haven't seen that I would be interested in seeing is definitely King of the Mountain. that definitely has me intrigued. A lot of these I've seen. I saw Bustin' Loose. I don't know about the original version of the fan. I might have to skip that. But, we were talking Raiders, we're talking Dragon Slayer, we're talking a classic Cheech and Chong, Clash of the Titans, just so many. And, I got to echo a little bit on what Lacey said about Stripes, too. Obviously, one of the great Bill Murray, Harold Ramis team-up films. But if you're a John Larroquette fan, I'm a huge John Larroquette fan, you can even see some of the early beginnings of a Dan Fielding in Stripes.
Okay.
So, but I mean, this is just an amazing run of films for this 1-2 month section. And if you were to have this kind of run in the modern day, people would be the internet would be losing its mind right now. I honestly do believe that this is something we have not had for a very long time, where we've had a run of movies in a short period of time that were just like this run we were just discussed in this episode of Time Warp.
Yeah, this was a good time for movies. Raiders, of course, not only being my favorite movie, but just like movies like Outland and Clash of the Titans, History of the World, Cannonball Run. I used to watch that all the time. And the Great Muppet Caper, great. And then I got to be careful about putting post of movies I haven't seen, man. Stripes, I really heard about that one.
Did you enjoy Stripes? I know you defended not having seen it, but I mean,
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I could definitely see why it was a thing, and that was really kind of like Bill Murray's breakout role, I guess,
yeah. Kevin, I just want to say, I just want to say, in your defense, Kevin, I think it wasn't so much people were getting on you; it was just the shock. There is a shock level to say I have not seen Stripes when you're within our age bracket.
Right. Well, I'm going to see Force 5. I have not seen this. I was hoping that DVD would have come sooner, but I will definitely see that. I also want to see now Hot Potato, that movie, and that is available on DVD and Blu-ray as well. I have no interest in seeing the Lone Ranger movie. So I'm gonna call out Force 5 for sure. I definitely. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I want to hunt down King of the Mountain as well. You have convinced me on that, with Harry Hamlin, and I like the idea of that, and I'm familiar with Mulholland Drive. I've ridden on that before, so I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. And plus, I'm a fan of Deborah Van Valkenburg, and she's in that as well. So, well, we're going to be coming back for part 4 of 1981, and we're going to be covering July and August. A couple good movies on this list, guys. Escape from New York. Classic. Arthur. Not a big fan of that one.
Love it.
You like Arthur? You're a big fan of Arthur, Lacey?
Absolutely. Dudley Moore was a genius. Love him.
Liza Minnelli, John Gielgud in that. One of my favorites of all time, and I have it on VHS. The Disney released DVD is expensive to find now, and that is Condor Man.
Oh, love me some Condor Man.
Yes.
Now wait. Kevin, I gotta ask, do you remember Condor Man Crunch at Baskin Robbins?
No, I do not remember that.
No,
now I want Condor Crunch. We've covered this here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Heavy metal.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yes. So those are a little tease of what we're going to be covering next. So thank you all for listening. First of all, subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. Our master feed for all of our audio podcasts, including this podcast, Time Warp, can be found on fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is on all major platforms, which also includes Apple Podcast, iTunes. You can follow us on Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. We are on Instagram and Twitter. My name is Kevin. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom.
And Lacey, where can we find you?
I am Lacey Pants on all of the places.
Twitter and Instagram, yes. You can support us with reviews. Search Apple Podcasts and iTunes or your other podcast platforms for Fandom Podcast Network and leave us a review. We'd appreciate that. You can also support us on our TeePublic store. Head on over to TeePublic and search Fandom Podcast Network and Time Warp, and you get your own Time Warp t-shirt and other apparel, and that helps us out. Like to thank Lacee. Thank you again for sharing your movie Kung Fu. This is one of the reasons why we have you. We appreciate your knowledge and looking forward to continuing our Time Warp journey.
Hooray. I had so much fun. I can't wait for the next one.
Kyle, thank you as always. My movie brother and nerd brother, appreciate you.
As always, I got the chlorine levels fixed in the hot tub time machine, but would you explain how some of the stuff that I found in the filter got into the filter? But then again,
I will not.
I probably don't want to know in the first place, but
you do not. Just allows us to time travel. That's all you need to know. Until next time, we will see you in 1981. Goodbye, everyone.